Good morning, folks. Here we are, and left and right. It's Wednesday, January the 24th, right? 4th.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. And I'm here with my colleague, left-wing, misguided colleague, Gino Funicella from Jackson, New Hampshire.
I know,
and my name
folks.
is Tom McLaughlin, who thinks this show should be called Right and Wrong, but we call it Left and Right. And today, I hope we get to these particular issues. We're going to talk about the government shutdown, okay, which was last weekend. We're going to talk about a House Intelligence Committee memo that's hanging fire, the FBI texts that are missing, 50,000 of them, and this. We're going to talk about the Russia collusion probe and pushback by congressional committees against that, tax cuts, spin, etc. And way back story called about the Bundy situation in Nevada or Utah, wherever it was, this farmer. We'll bring an update on that. I hope we get to all that stuff. And
We got about
we'll
3
see.
days, we'll get to
We'll
it.
see.
Go ahead.
But we have to start with this particular, and we'll have our winners and losers, as well as our
Good news and bad
good news
news.
and bad news, yeah. Okay, so question one from our producer. We haven't
Sight
seen this
unseen, by the way.
before.
Yes,
We
sight
haven't
unseen.
seen what this says. We have not prepared for it. Under what circumstances do you believe children of illegal immigrants should be granted citizenship, if at all? Yeah, go for it.
That's basically called, the dream is DACA. And I believe that the children that were brought here by their parents when they were little, very little in most cases, should have citizenship. I think that to send them back to a country they never lived in when they're 10, 15, 20 years old now is just, there's 600, 800,000 of them. And I think it would be really wrong to do that. And again, these people are going to be needed to work here because there aren't enough people to go to the jobs that we have. But we'll talk about that later too, I hope.
I have a lot of thoughts about this. This question brings up many things. I think illegal immigrants in the United States should not be in the United States, and they should be sent back to where they came from. It gets complicated because so many of them have been here for so long, and that is
basically the question was about the children.
I understand that
Yeah,
about
okay.
the children. And so then we have, if we grant them amnesty, which is what the Democrats and many Republicans also want to do, then we don't do anything about chain migration, which means each of them could bring in 15 to 20 other relatives unvetted into the United States. And something has to be done about immigration, and I think stop it, for one thing. Legal and illegal, just suspend it entirely. We can have guest workers under the H-1A and H-1B visas and so forth. But no, they broke the law. They're here. The children who came and now have been here for 15, 20 years because our immigration system has not been
800,000 of
enforced.
them. Yeah, 800,000, suppose.
I think I've heard figures that go as high as 3 million.
Okay.
So that, if we grant them citizenship status, which I think it's a negotiating point right now between Democrats and it's the reason why the government shut down, was because Democrats wanted something on this and insisted that it be part of this budget deal. And now it looks as though it's being negotiated. So Trump looks like he says, okay, I'm going to have, I have 4 points. I want to stop chain migration. I want to build a wall. And there were 2 other points as well.
Whatever.
I'm not sure what they were. Those things I have to have in this deal. And then I will bend on this question right here, the children of illegal immigrants, so-called DACA, Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals, that Obama implemented illegally, unconstitutionally, and will he compromise on it? He's indicated a willingness to compromise.
I think
To that extent, I would support it, only if he gets something in return.
I personally don't think
Trump
Trump has any care one way or the other on all these things. I just think If it works out for him, he'll be in favor of DACA. If it doesn't work out for him, he won't be. Right now, he's hiring people for his hotels on these temporary visas and stuff like that. He's looking for help all over the place. So I don't think it's any big deal. I do know that up in Wisconsin right now, we're paying full pay to prisoners to fill jobs because their unemployment rate in Wisconsin is 2%. So they don't pay prisoners anymore 25 cents an hour. Now they're filling all these jobs in Wisconsin with prisoners that, are living off the state in a prison hotel, and they're coming to work every day and making full pay. Now you got 800,000 people that are teenagers and older, somewhat older. They came here not of their own volition. They're here. And we talk about chain migration. They maybe were part of a chain migration, but as Ronald Reagan did back in 1986 or 7, he gave citizenship to 9 million, what we called then illegal aliens. He, in his wisdom. Now we're getting into the situation we're going to ship people back. When we have an unemployment rate in this country, Trump was bragging yesterday that we've got 2 million jobs in the last year. We've had 2 million new jobs every year for the last 7 or 8 years. We need employees. We don't have people that can fill these jobs. And if he ships these people back, they're only going to come back on some other kind of visa or something. It's a big joke. But anyway,
I agree. We need workers because we don't.
Oh, absolutely.
Our population, if it weren't for immigration, illegal and legal,
replace.
And I would call them illegal aliens, because if you call them immigrants, then that implies that they came by some lawful process, and they didn't. They came in. They snuck into the country. All right, so they are aliens, and that is a constitutional term. That comes from the U.S. Constitution. And to call them undocumented immigrants is euphemistic, and it's euphemistic by the press. And they said that they will fire a reporter that uses the term. And so clearly they favor this because they are in the pocket of Democrats, as I have said
we
long.
shouldn't even
I
go
know
there
you're going to
because
object to that, but that is
so specious an argument because
it is not a specious argument.
For 100 years, Heinz Company, all these different companies that farm, that do all this stuff around the potato, all these different farms and things that have hired these people.
I agree, and that's fine.
Knowing they were here illegally, knowing it, okay?
Yes.
The only time they've ever had a system that worked even somewhat rationally was with Haiti, when they brought Haitians in the summer or in the fall, I can't remember when, and they brought them into Florida. They all lived in these camps. They worked 6 months cutting cane. Then they shipped them all back to Haiti. That was a system that somewhat worked. This system of people in Arizona and Nevada and all these different places say, gee, we need a couple of thousand people to pick our tomato crops or whatever. They've been using them for years.
I think we need a system called E-Verify. That is, that any employer who knowingly hires an illegal immigrant and can't can't say that he's here legally by E-Verify system, then let's implement that. And that would expose what you just said. And I will acknowledge that,
it's amazing.
that has been going on for a long time. And businesses do profit because they can pay them sub-minimum wage. Just poor wages don't have to offer them any kind of benefits or anything like that. And there's so much wrong with this, but we have to start by making it legal. Allow them to come in on H-1A, H-1B visas, and then make sure they go back. They overstay the visas, and there's no enforcement about to make that happen.
People come in from England all the time. They'll buy something. They'll live here for several years, earning money, and then they'll go back. They have to go back to England once every year or 2 years or something to re-up it and all that stuff, and then they come back again. We do that all the time. The point is, in the areas in the Southwest, these people came in droves because they knew there was work, places that would hire them. At the end of the season, a lot of them go home. They don't stay there.
I belong to a group called Maine is for Sensible Immigration Policy, and it's we've been interviewing gubernatorial candidates in Maine. It's an open seat because LePage is termed out, and so so far we've only interviewed Republicans, but some of them have come in, and one guy owns several apple orchards, and he brings in people from Jamaica. And he said the rules are very strict. He said, I have to pay them I have to pay for their transportation here and back. I have to pay them $14 an hour. I have to provide housing for them that meets certain standards. And he said, it costs a lot of money, but I need to get the crop picked in a 6-week window. And I have them there for 6 weeks, and then they go back. And so this happens. I know guys in Freiburg who have hired Mexicans under these same kinds of programs for decades now.
Sure.
And it can work. It can work. It works there. It can work everywhere. But it has to be tightened up. It just has to be tightened up. And
But I don't think throwing the baby out with the bathwater is the answer to tightening it up.
Well,
I mean,
I'll
if
get
someone's been here 2, 5, 10 years, brought here as a child, a baby, I don't see by penalizing them by shipping them back to a country they never even lived in. I mean, that to me is like, it's so disheartening for a nation that supposedly says we're a Christian society, we're Judeo-Christian. Humbug! It's humbug, it's bull. They don't believe in anything. They're just throwing these people back into a swamp that their families crawled out of 20 years ago. Why blame the children? It's because they're easy to blame. They don't have any money. They've got basically no representation, and they just want to throw them out. And I think Trump is really, really wrong by being this type of individual, because he's used these people for 40 years in his hotels, cleaning his toilets and his Mar-a-Lagos and all the rest of it. And they're only willing to go along, well, only because it doesn't, right now,
they
it doesn't
can come
fit.
as temporary guest workers. But to make them citizens is another thing entirely.
Well, they've been here long enough to earn citizenship, right? 20, 30 years.
I'm going to quote again from this Jennifer Palmieri of the American Center for American Progress, this Democrat think tank.
Yeah, I don't know.
The fight to protect dreamers is not only a moral imperative, it is also a critical component of the Democratic Party's future electoral success. That is what drives them. They believe that these illegal immigrants, who are, most of them are on welfare, are they on welfare and working under the table and doing very well and shipping billions of dollars back to Mexico and other countries
Billion.
while they're here. Yes, billions.
Well, these guys are making a lot of money picking fruit, huh?
And they're doing this on our dime, on the taxpayer dime. And it is because that is the constituency of the Democrat Party's, that's their philosophy. They're going to, the identity politics, these, you people who are minorities are going to depend on us because you're on the welfare state. That's what the Democrats stand for. That is the strategy behind this.
You may think that, but I think people like Trump and a lot of his minions have been on the welfare state themselves for a lot of years. When Donald Trump sits there and says he gets a $900 million tax break in 1992 and doesn't pay any taxes for the next 20 years, and American citizens.
You don't know that, Gino.
I got a quote for you here. H.L. Mencken, you probably know who H.L. Mencken was in the 1940s. Kind of a real honest citizen. Democracy, he said, this is a quote, the worship of jackals by jackasses. The worship of jackals by jackasses. And that's exactly what's happening with Trump right now.
What?
He's the jackal.
Democracy is that?
He's the jackal.
That's what you think of democracy?
And his 32% of idiotic supporters are the jackasses who are going to be eaten at the proper moment. So, you know what? You guys can have Donald.
You agree with Hillary in a deplorable statement?
No, I don't agree with Hillary. I think it was a stupid statement to make because it was the height of the
Sounds
election
like that's
campaign.
what you think,
no,
too.
I think right now the people that still support him, that 32% who can watch him.
What does support mean?
Support. Agree with him. Agree with his methods.
I agree with what he's
Oh,
doing.
you're not.
I absolutely agree.
You agree with some of it. You don't agree with all of it.
of his actual
Well,
policy initiatives.
Remember
I
what
do.
H.L. Mencken said, the worship of jackals by jackasses.
I don't worship Donald Trump. I've never liked the man. I know
There you
he's
go.
narcissist. He turns me off. He always has. If I had the same choice, I'm in the voting booth, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump as opposed to Hillary Clinton, the Green Party candidate, and the Libertarian Party candidate. I'm absolutely going to do that. And I'm glad, and I like the policies that Donald Trump has pushed through so far and the executive actions that he's taken.
You're a
I think
historian.
it is terrific.
You're a historian.
He's doing a great job that way. He's a fool Yes, I've acknowledged that all along, that he's a fool. But I
You know
don't.
what you sound like right now? You sound like the people that lived after the Weimar Republic. You really do. You sound like someone who went to a speech by Adolf Hitler and thought, boy, he's saying some stuff I can live with. But after a couple of years, it
You're
brainstormed.
comparing Trump to Hitler?
Oh, yes. I think he is a Hitler. I really think he is. I've said it all along. You must be, I believe, I've been consistent. 2 or 3 years ago, I said I thought he reminded me a lot of Mussolini. He supports the guy in the Philippines. He supports Erdogan in Turkey. He supports the Russian killers. He even said something good about your friend from whatever his name is, Sum Young Un, whatever his name is, from North
My
Korea.
friend?
He hasn't had a good word to say
My
about
friend?
any. Yeah, but no, he hasn't had a good word to say about any normal
You
human
said Trump
being.
hasn't paid taxes in 20 years. I don't know where you got that, Gino.
$900 million during the campaign.
That he acknowledged that he got a $900 billion. He took that much of a loss
And you
on
gotta
something,
carry forward.
and so he did carry it forward.
Right.
That is perfectly legal. The only time any of his taxes have been divulged publicly was when Rachel Maddow thought she
Yeah,
had
one
this
year-
big
one
scoop.
year, one
and how
year.
much money? How many taxes did Trump pay that particular
idea.
year?
I don't even
20
know.
million,
Follow.
40 million, somewhere in there. It was somewhere between 20 and 40 million dollars that he paid in federal income tax. That was a big scoop, wasn't it?
Yeah, was
And
it out of his pocket?
So you have no basis to say that Trump has not paid taxes for
I'm
20
saying
years.
he didn't pay taxes on that $900 million loss. Now,
So what?
who the hell ever investigated what he's done as far as his past
Gino,
taxes go?
the
Have you seen his
IR
last 19 taxes?
I
His
haven't
IRS?
seen any of them, no. But you're talking, Gino, from nothing. Well, I don't know where you get
$900
this.
million?
I know you hate Donald Trump, and so do
I
so
hate
do
what he
millions of
stands
other
for.
Americans.
I hate what he stands for.
You've told me you hate
He's a
the guy.
misogynistic person who, on tape, said he'd touch women whenever he could, and he said, I do it because I'm powerful and important, and then he denied he ever even said it.
Gino,
I mean, I just don't
I
understand.
never
the
heard
man.
him deny that he said
He
that.
denied it.
Nobody
Yes,
can
he
deny
did.
it because there it is on tape.
He denied it.
He's
he
right
said
there.
he never said it.
It's
He
not
said
just
it was
on-
false news, phony news. I'm telling you, there's over 2,000 lies.
I'd like to know where you get that he denied it.
It was right on-
There it was. It was on that NBC
And he
tape.
denied it.
The NBC was holding that right until the end of the campaign and thinking this is going to sink him for sure. And it didn't. You know why it didn't?
Nothing.
It
nothing
didn't
sank him.
because the American people that voted for Donald Trump, including me,
Mm-hmm.
believed that they needed someone to go to Washington and kick ASS. And that is what Donald Trump is doing. I don't like the man. Like I said, I don't even have to say that anymore. Okay, I've said it enough times.
I like hearing it, though. I enjoy hearing it.
I like what he's doing. I like what he's saying about the press, and I like what he's doing in his platform, in his program.
Okay,
I
Donnie,
like it all.
Let me-
except don't like him.
Let me
I
dot
don't like his
back-
haircut either.
Let me bring you back to 1933, 34, 35, when Hitler was up on the podium talking about Jews.
You're insulting me.
No, I'm not insulting you. I'm just
You're
trying
saying
to bring,
that
I'm trying to say that Donald Trump has said the same
You're
thing.
comparing
basically-
him to Hitler. Okay?
He said the same thing about
Gino.
Muslims. He's been saying the same thing about Muslims and dark people. He called people from these dark countries.
You're cranked, Gino.
He
You're
said they
cranked
were
up.
from shitholes. What do you think Adolf Hitler would have said about Jews from Poland?
I
You
wonder
don't
if
think
he's
he
going to have to strike that.
No,
word
I
you
mean
just
that's
said.
what he said. That's a quote.
I know that's what he said.
Well, what do you think of that? You don't think Hitler would have said the same thing about the Jews?
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when my sister, if I said that while I'm out in the woods with my friend playing, and my sister heard me say S-H-I-T, and then she goes home and tells my mother that
Then you
Tommy
get
said
spanked.
S-H-I-T.
Then you get
And then,
spanked.
okay, that's
I know.
what Dick Durbin did here. All right, so they're talking and then negotiating. And so Trump used the S word. So big deal.
Yeah, but
big deal.
it's the
And then he calls
context.
okay, so
Why
then
should we let people in from
then the-
shitholes?
exactly.
he said.
You know what, Gino? That's why those people are leaving those countries, because they are asshole countries. They
all.
want out of there.
Did
They
you
want
s-
to come here. And
you-
when they come here, then they don't want to go back.
Did you
and they
see
want to
that?
bring all their relatives over here. Gino,
All right. Did you see the statistics on the
they're
people
not-
that came here
they
from
try
Africa?
to take that and make it into Trump is a racist. There's no
He
basis
is a
to say.
Oh my God, he even admits, he probably
Okay,
admitted
there you
it.
go. He's Hitler. He's a racist. He's a
He's not a
misogynist. Oh,
racist.
geez. Gino, you guys,
What-
I see Trump's flaws. I see them for what, always have seen them for what they are. But I'm not blinded, as I
Okay.
think you are.
I'm not
You
blinded.
and many others. You see that you want this guy gone. Anything negative that you hear about him, you believe, like that he didn't pay taxes for 20 years. You have no basis to say something like
right.
that. That he's a racist, there's no basis to say that he's a
Okay.
racist.
All right. There's no
There
basis.
just isn't.
Okay.
And yet you run with it, and you don't. Gino, what's happening is not a good thing. It's not. Our country is
19
further and further divided.
I think it was 1972.
Your hatred is blinding you.
No, it isn't. 1972, Trump there was a trial, not a trial, there was a lawsuit against Trump and his father for not.
I heard it all. You
But
said
it's
it. I
true.
know. I've heard it. Okay,
He
so
didn't rent to black people. He wouldn't rent to black. What is that? Now look, if you won't rent your apartment over your garage to a black person, any black person, what does that mean? What are you?
you're cranked.
But you wouldn't do that because you're not a racist. You know, but if you're a racist, you'll do that. You can't do that if you're a normal, loving American person who loves other people regardless of the color. You might have a disagreement with someone because he's black, but that doesn't make him all bad. The man has been a racist for life. It's sad. It's sad to say.
I don't agree. I don't see evidence of racism.
Well, I just think he's.
I don't know the details of
either
that
maybe he's
particular case.
awful.
I
Maybe
haven't-
he's just plain stupid. Maybe he's
We
just
need to
plain
change the
stupid.
subject
I
here,
know.
but I know we're going to get back onto it again.
No, we won't. No, we won't. Let's not. Hey, I've got
Because
something
it-
else.
you're-
I want to. When you
The
do,
government shut down.
let's do
okay?
good news and bad
Okay.
news. Can we do good news and bad news here? Because we've been.
All right,
right.
go for it.
What's your good news? I want to hear what your
You
good
want to
news-
hear mine?
Yes, I have an interest in what you think. Believe it or
Oh,
not.
man. Oof.
You want to write
I
this
brought
down?
my hearing aids this week.
You need hearing it with me?
I don't like these hearing aids because they interfere with my new glasses. I like very much,
So you
but
want to
they
say
both
good,
have
you
to
wanna
go
have a good
behind my
word about
ear.
the breakfast you had at Banner's this morning? Any good words about that?
I like banners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we went this morning. We might as well plug them. Yeah. We usually go to Peaches, but they're closed. And,
The girls let us down this week.
But Banners is another place I would go to often. I meet friends there for breakfast and so
I
forth.
saw some of them.
And yeah, so yeah, Banners is a good little restaurant. That's good news.
So what's your good news?
Yeah,
Give us the good news, real good news.
the real good news. Well, we had an ice storm last night, and I came to work, not to work. Well, this is work in that sense, but I came in this morning, and I have to drive east, so the sun was coming up, and it shone through some of that ice on,
On the
the
limbs.
hardwoods.
Oh, beautiful.
Just beautiful. And I stopped, and I always have my camera with me, and I got some nice shots, I believe. And yeah, it's gorgeous. And the other good news is that I only lost power for 2 hours
That's
in
amazing.
Lovell yesterday. Yeah, when I think about what happened in the past when we had so much ice storms, that
Maine's tough.
yeah.
What about the bad news?
Oh gosh, the bad news is there was another school shooting yesterday in
Really?
Kentucky. Yeah.
Wow.
And typical, demographic, it would be a 15-year-old white kid. I don't know if this kid was white or not, but as a 15-year-old, I'll bet he's white. That seems to be the ones who do it, and it's have been for the last
They shoot
20
up a
years
school?
now. They shot up a high school, killed
Really?
2 kids, and wounded 20
Wow.
others. And so, I saw that on the Drudge Report. I saw the link yesterday, and then I watched news, and it didn't get a lot of attention, and
No.
that's bad news because it's almost becoming routine. That
It is.
that a kid can shoot up a school, and that we're used to it now. Okay, yeah, there's another traffic accident. Yep, another school shooting, and that's pretty sad. As a former teacher, I'm sad about
Well,
that.
maybe someday they'll want to do something about the proliferation of guns in the country. But anyway, my bit of good news, and this is something I'm surprised you didn't think of. Pats are going to go back to the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's good news.
Again?
Yeah, yeah.
Sixth time. No, eighth time, right?
I think so, yeah.
I guess they've gone
For Brady, 10th overall.
Yeah,
10th overall, eighth time for Brady.
yeah, we got clobbered
Wow.
by the Chicago
That's
Bears
amazing.
50 to nothing.
In about
once.
15 years, they've gone to 50% of the Super Bowls. No wonder they're so hated. I mean, they are. You turn on sports talk on the radio around the country, and oh my God, they hate
They hate
Patriots.
'em, yeah.
Cheat. They got the referees are doing them favors.
Why do you think so? You think it's because the Patriots are
Because
crooked?
they're so good.
That's right.
Because I'm looking
You're
at
right.
it now and
They're
saying,
so
oh
good.
God, you know, so I always wish, well, I'll say not this year, but I wish eventually they stop going every year because it's going to get really bad. And I think that maybe it's a good thing Jimmy G got traded to San Francisco because that might have given him another 15 years if it was good. So that's my good news. And my bad news, and it's really bad news because the Minnesota Vikings had to go home after that game in Philadelphia. And that was really bad news because, you know, if you live in northern Minnesota, there really isn't much to look forward to except the next winter. So I can understand how they will feel about going back there and being embarrassed by Philadelphia.
I was surprised at that score. I didn't. It really was. I
Well,
thought
this starts
that
to roll.
it'd be closer.
It's like a rolling wave. After they get rolling, and that first interception, I guess they threw was a big. How about you? How
momentum
about your
thing,
bad news? I mean, your winners and losers.
Winners and losers. Well, I was going to use that. I was going to talk about again the Patriots, and the Patriots are winners. I mean, they are absolute winners. And when I started renewing my my fan status of New England, it was 2001, and I was doing carpentry work on the weekends, and I had to build an office and a waiting room in the basement for my wife's business, and then I had to build this apartment over the garage, and so I was several years doing that weekends. So Sunday afternoon, that's what I'm doing, and I had a little TV, and I could put it over and watch
That's
it while
February
I was
01.
working, and that's when, oh wow, who's this Brady guy? You know, he fills in for Bledsoe, and then all of a sudden, boy, that guy
Rocking
can
and
throw.
rolling.
He's really cooking. So then I got to be a fan of Tom Brady. Plus he's Irish and so
Sure,
forth.
of course.
And I mean, it was wonderful, and it still is. And so
Yeah.
they've been winning and
Marvelous.
winning and winning, except for those 2 New York Giants Super Bowls. Those were heartbreakers.
Well, that was God getting even. I
But
always
it's,
thought it was God getting even.
Anyway, yeah, they certainly are winners.
Because you can't
Yeah.
blame Brady for those 2 losses. He wasn't even on the field when they happened. You know, the loss was that they threw the ball and it was on the guy's helmet, and they reached up, it didn't come off, and the guy got his only touchdown he ever scored. I think it was the only pass he ever caught.
Yeah.
And then the next year, a couple of years later, same thing happened. My winner, and I happened to. What happened was the women, American women, had a women's march over the weekend, and my wife had decided to go. And in Jackson, we had, I guess, there were like 300 women, and my wife said to me, 300 people, mostly women, and they marched from the bridge down to the school. And I had dropped my wife off because I said, I don't want to go. It's going to be all women. I don't want to go, So what had happened was she left her new megaphones in the car. She had 2 megaphones, and so she's very politically active. So I get back in the damn car, I drove down, and then walked from one end of the thing to the other to find her and give her the 2 megaphones. And then she said, well, why don't you march with us? So I marched a few hundred yards, got in the car, and went home and picked her up later. But that was pretty good. Those are the winners because they thought enough of it to go out on a kind of a chilly day, winter day. The loser, this is amazing. This is amazing. You remember during the campaign against Hillary when Trump was whacking on her about she gave her speeches for the swamp and she made $500,000 for a speech for one of the...
No, Bill did for.
No, but she did. She
Kazakhstan.
was making money too.
Yeah, she
before
made
the-
300,000 or 400,000.
Yeah, so
on
I mean,
some, yeah.
this was Trump talking about the money she made. Trump was going to have a party the night they closed Washington down. There was a party scheduled. It was his first anniversary.
Last weekend.
Yeah, being in office. He had something at Mar-a-Lago that he wound up canceling. Did you hear about what it was?
Oh yeah, I knew
every
he canceled
couple-
his trip to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah,
Every couple that came to this
$100,000
dinner,
bucks.
$100,000.
I saw that,
Every
yeah.
couple that wanted to sit at the same table with him, $250,000.
Who were the beneficiaries of this?
Who knows how most
Was
of
it
the
a
money
charity?
goes.
Was it a
I don't-
Republican
I
Party?
don't know
What?
where it was a guy that might have. Who knows? But the point is, are you going to count the people? I mean, it's like there's 200 or 300 people there. You're talking $20, $30 million floating around the table, and you got to say to yourself, well, why? And why now? And it's 3 years from now to your next election, and you're already collecting money for that when you'll probably be in jail with any luck. So I just thought that the loser was Donald Trump because he could have picked up a quick batch of $1,000 bills and didn't because
He
they
could have
shut
picked
down
them up?
Washington. Huh?
He could have picked them up.
Of course.
We don't know who the
No, we assume it's at his
This was a
hotel.
benefit dinner.
It's at his hotel. We're paying for the rooms for the Secret Service to stay there. How sick is this presidency? And don't you see that? You can't see this? Can you imagine?
Here we go again.
Wait a minute.
Here we go
Now,
again.
wait a minute. I know that Obama took up the game of golf when he was in Washington. He probably played a lot, okay? But he went to Martha's Vineyard a couple of weeks a year. I went to Hawaii a couple weeks a year. This guy has been out of the White House probably half the time he's been in Washington. And the other bulletin, right, this is also another loser, by the way. I'll throw in the
Yeah,
second.
two losers.
I got to throw in the second loser. Trump's wife is not going with him to Switzerland, wherever that
Davos.
Yeah, she's not going. I think she's just about had it. When she found out that he was bopping around with this porno actress a
That
year after
surprised
they were
me.
married, huh?
It didn't surprise me that he did it, but it surprised me that it was publicized, and both Trump and the woman denied
No one's
it.
shocked
But she
anymore.
was paid $160,000, and no one denied that.
She was paid actually double that because some other group paid her another 100 and some. there was
Whatever.
two
I mean,
groups.
when you pay off somebody, you're pretty much admitting that this person has got something, and it was a confidentiality agreement. I think is what was paid for here.
It's sick.
So a lot could have been made of that, but maybe
course.
not. Maybe not. Maybe here in the 21st century, we've reached the point where we expect that.
We're so used to
there's
it.
so much stuff going on, and on both ends of the political spectrum, and wealthy men seem to be doing this. Wealthy men do it to women and to other young men, and so forth.
I think we're going to elect a lot of women this year. I really do. Across the
We
whole
have been.
spectrum.
We have been electing a lot.
It wouldn't
a
surprise
lot of
me.
men.
People are sick of this crap. It's just getting-
Well,
anyway, do you want to do
lots of things
you
are
got
going
another,
on.
Topic you were.
Well, we can get that out of the way, so
Okay.
let's do that. Go ahead, ask. Read it.
And these come from top management. These have not been seen by any of the human beings. You might not be interested in this. Oh, good God. The New Hampshire House, which is a very austere body, the New Hampshire House. People that work there make $100 a year while they're legislators. And there is much talk about them being overpaid. The New Hampshire House is deciding on a bill that would change the minimum age for marriage from 13 for girls and 14 for boys to 16 years of age for both. Parental and judicial consent are currently required for current laws. The age of consent for sexual activity in both New Hampshire and Maine is 16 years of age. What are your thoughts on minimum age for legal marriage and the age of consent?
And the age of consent, well, the age of consent is 16.
Right
but
now
the
it's
age
13
for
and
legal
14.
marriage with parental permission, I think,
Yeah.
is 13 and for girls and 14 for
Wow,
boys.
that's amazing, huh? I didn't know
Well, I think that might go back to the days when, people did get married younger, 100 years ago.
that. Yeah.
But also, we used to believe that that sexual activity should be limited to marriage. Now, both
That's
of those
religious.
things have kind of gone by. I'm wondering now if this most Americans, half of the people just don't get married. I mean,
Right.
most people, and then
Right.
half of the ones who do get married get divorced.
True.
So it's marriage
It's
is
75%.
becoming, an endangered species. But however, if you look at a large immigrant group in New Hampshire, and Manchester has a lot of Muslim immigrants, and what they do is arrange marriages.
Sure.
And they arrange marriages to young girls. And it's not very popular with the girls, but it happens at
Popular
that
with the
age
old men.
and so forth. It is popular with them, yeah, and they can marry 4 women as well. So, I maybe I don't know. I don't watch New Hampshire news very closely, but maybe that's
See, that
part of the motivator to prevent that Muslim child marriages, arranged marriages from occurring. I don't know.
How many virgins does a Muslim get when they
72.
72? See, the
When
numbers
they kill
don't.
them,
The
when they
numbers
kill
don't.
die killing us
Right, but
infidels.
the
yeah.
numbers don't work, because if all these girls are Muslims are getting married, fixed marriages when they're 12 or 14, whatever,
Yeah,
how do you then get?
that's a good point.
They got to be
Yeah,
the
I don't know.
homeliest. They got to be the homeliest of the homely. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah,
They may never take off the burqa or whatever they wear over their heads, huh?
You're going to get in trouble with.
I know,
with
but
the
I mean, this is no.
Democrat
That's
feminists.
I just don't believe that 72 is.
You don't believe they get 72 virgins
No, I
in
don't know where
paradise?
they dig them
Gino?
up. No. I don't know. Somebody
Well-
down at Well must have said that once, but we can't believe what they say in Wells. Wells, Maine, even. No, here, 13 for girls. It's so hard to believe that you could allow someone 13 years old to get married in America. I mean, and New Hampshire finally jumped on the bandwagon and said, okay, let's change it to 16. I didn't know. I have no comment. I just think this is so bizarre.
I see a connection. I'm going to change the subject now.
Go ahead. Find a connection.
Media spin. I'm seeing that's becoming very glaring to me. And as I've said earlier in this program and many other times on this program before,
Excuse me.
mainstream media is liberal, has a profound liberal bias.
You say that.
Yes, I do, and you always challenge it, but that's it.
Of course.
So I see that what surprised me about this government shutdown is it wasn't blamed on Republicans. It was blamed on Democrats by many in the mainstream media, not all, but many. And this little alliteration of the Schumer shutdown seemed to catch on. And it was that the Democrats were shutting down government
Yeah, they
over
did it.
the DACA ruling. They wanted illegal immigrants, which is unrelated to really the budget, and they insisted on Trump approving that in order to approve this, continuing resolution. And it only lasted for 3 days because Chucky Schumer couldn't seem to spin it the way he wanted to spin it. And so that's why the government shutdown ended. I also see the spin now because, as I'm going to bring up sooner after you have a chance to respond, that this whole Russia collusion, Mueller investigation, and the Hillary server and emails and all of it, the FBI, the Department of Justice, it's ready to explode. And I'm watching as the media how it's being spun, and I'm going to comment on that after
So
you
where
have
are
a
we?
chance to comment.
Okay. What the heck was the comment? Oh, you
We were talking about the DACA shutdown and how the Democrats.
Well, the
it
Democrats
was blamed on Democrats.
Everybody, look at we have
which
a
is why it
government.
ended.
We have a government that has billions of dollars a year in expenses. One of the rules.
$4 trillion.
Yeah, $4 trillion. $4 trillion a year budget. And these people in Washington, on both sides, getting down to, well, we can wait. We're going to have a 10-day delay. We're going to go, another 2 weeks. What is this?
As opposed to an annual
Yeah,
budget.
what is this crud? They don't want to look at the facts. The facts are we're spending more money than we take in. We just gave away how many $1 trillion over 8 years, 10 years to the wealthy, basically. I mean, look at the whole picture. Yeah, you're not going to be able to put a budget together. The budget on what you people are spending is ridiculous. So that's why you can.
You people.
Washington, what you've been complaining about for 7 years.
Washington.
No, I'm saying what you've been complaining about for 7 years, the budget deficit.
Yeah.
It's going to go to 20, 22 trillion, or however many trillion it's going to go to. We got a president now who's bragging about we hired 2 million people this year. We've had 2 million more employees every year for the last 8 years. It's 200,000 a month, something like that. There's nothing changing. The GDP has gone up from 2.7% to 2.9. Whoopee-doo! American incomes at middle class are like flatline. People can't afford anything, and half the people, a lot of the people are on food stamps and all this other stuff. And you got these people who can't even write a budget because the budget can't be written. It'll be so embarrassing if they have to actually write down for America to see how deep in the hole we really are and how deep in the hole we're going to go. And they can't talk, none of them can talk about it. Trump's bragging about this and bragging, oh, I've done this and I've done that. Well, come on, please. Nothing's really changed. The stock market's gone up. Big deal. Does that have anything to do with me?
Interesting. I'm watching, living a long time, you get to see a lot of things. You get to see how it used to be and how it is now. And
This
it
is a
interests me to
disaster.
hear my leftist colleague here complain about increasing budget deficit
Yeah.
after President Obama and the Democrats doubled it, not just the deficit, but the debt from 10 trillion to 20 trillion. And
Well,
now,
was it?
as I said, early on, that I like that Donald Trump is implementing a lot of conservative policies, except that one. He introduced a budget. I mean,
Yeah.
that
Where is
had
it?
a $600 billion deficit. He did. He came up with it.
Now, one
introduced
year.
it to the
One
Congress.
year.
Well, he's only been there 1 year.
Yeah, that's 7.2 trillion
I
after
know.
10
And
years,
so
8 years.
that dismayed me considerably. However, I don't agree with your analysis of these tax cuts. I think the tax cuts will result in greater revenue from the IRS into the Treasury than if they had not gone through. And I believe in the rising tide raises all boats. I think that for every % increase in GDP, you're going to get $1 trillion into the IRS.
If that
So,
happens. No, you're not wrong. If that happens.
I believe that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that. I can't predict it, but
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident that is what will occur. You don't. You've said you don't believe that.
I don't know.
Well,
It's a
I
gamble.
think it'll happen, and I think it's already starting to. We're seeing, the GDP is climbing faster than even Trump expected. It could go up to 4%. It never even reached 2 under Obama.
It was 2. It's been 2.3,
For 1 quarter,
2.4.
and it was, it was in the hole for several quarters, and you just didn't get 2 in a row to call it a recession. But yeah, I mean, the deficit is the biggest problem facing the country. It really is.
Yeah, it hasn't
And
changed.
no, it hasn't. And so I think this tax cut will alleviate it.
Do you remember what happened? Going back to 1987 or 6, there were the Reagan tax cuts. They were monumental because it took the taxes on business way down and all this and that. And there was some taxes for the changes for the poor and middle class and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
And then come along to about 1999 or so, and I can remember George H.W. Bush, who I really like a lot. And he said,
You vote
"Read
for him?
my lips."
Did you vote for him?
No, I didn't at that time. I liked Clinton actually
Do
better.
you like him
but
in hindsight?
I like him. I liked him. I like him as a person. I think he's a good
Did you
human
vote for
being.
Mondale in '84?
No. But anyway, just to finish up. So I thought, George H.W. Bush saw a problem. There was a big hole occurring, I guess, in the budget, and he said, "Read my lips, no new taxes." And all of a sudden, within a couple of years, he raised taxes. He went back and raised, because there's modifications. A lot of people forget that the real estate industry was slammed by that cut by Reagan in 88 or 87, when it was. Because you used to be able to deduct all these costs if you had, extra homes and stuff like that, and they eliminated them right away. The real estate industry went in the tank for about 4 or 5 years. So when Clinton came in, they kind of got control of the economy pretty good. The economy wasn't that bad. They were cutting a little bit out of the deficit every year. They were cutting the rate of deficit increase.
We had a balanced budget.
Right, the rate of deficit increase was being cut. That's a term that's
He
like,
actually balanced the budget.
yeah. Well, I'd love to see that really.
He did.
But anyway, so we get now what's his name? George Bush comes in. There's about a 9 or 10 billion, you might be right, $10 trillion deficit. Well, we spent a lot of money those first 3 years of George W. Bush.
We did.
$1 trillion tax cut, couple of trillion for wars. I mean, so it was not, when Obama came in, it
Plus,
wasn't.
the economy took a hit with September 11th.
Oh my God, that was a disaster. And the economy in 2006, 7, 8, before Obama. I mean, so we were losing 600,000 jobs a month for that year when George Bush left office. And we were at least 14, 15, or 16 trillion dollars in debt. Now that date, and this is what I try to say to you, but that debt,
No, we were $10 trillion.
no, it was more than that. Look, you got to look
When
back.
George Bush left office, that's what it was.
In 2008,
Yes.
it was $10 trillion.
Yes.
And then it just suddenly jumped in the first year to 20 trillion?
No, over 8.
He actually,
Over 8
oh,
years, it jumped to 20 trillion.
If you look at it honestly, Obama actually cut the rate of increase in the deficit every year. I know you don't believe it, but I'm an economist, and I play one on television. And I'm telling you, the deficit was bigger than what you
You've said
say
that
it
over and
was.
over again. I know.
I know.
After
We gotta
first,
look it up.
After first having trillion-dollar deficits in 1 year, he raised it to the point where it never had been before, not even close. And then he began to cut that back, and then he gets credit for cutting back after
The rate of increase.
What
What do you think happened
That's
when
like
George?
the orphan that murdered his
Wait a minute.
parents, putting
And then
himself
said
at
he
the
was-
mercy
yeah.
of the court. Gino, I mean,
son-
why do you keep saying that? I just don't
Because
know.
now
'cause
he's-
it doesn't
now he's-
help your case at all.
Here's the thing.
Oh,
You're looking at 2001 as the point when George Bush came at office. Look at what the deficit was then.
He pretty much inherited at least, I think, 2 years of a balanced budget under the Clinton administration.
When he spent the $1 trillion,
So then
the 10-year
he goes from there to deficits again.
Yeah. What did
Yes,
he do
he
when he
did.
gave that $2 trillion out over 10 years? Remember that? Do you remember getting checks in the
Yeah,
mail from
I
the
do,
governor, the president?
Yeah.
Do you remember those checks?
Yeah, I do.
What was that all about? Does anybody know?
They were
Did you ever
refunds. They were refunds from the previous year because I believe it was a retroactive tax decrease.
I don't know what the hell it was.
That's
I
what it
still
was.
don't know. I cashed it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. But anyway,
That's what it was.
I don't agree with your numbers, but that's okay. We never do agree anyway.
Okay.
So what do you got left out of your
Well, what I got left
smattering
is
of-
I don't gloat in I told you so, and so far it looks as though I'm going to make the case, and I'm going to make this case.
Good,
As
you
I
got
started
30
to last
seconds.
week.
All right.
The FBI and the Department of Justice
Yes.
together conspired to absolve Hillary Clinton of charges for mishandling classified material.
Wow.
She should have been charged with that. Okay? They did that so that she could win the election in November. Also, FBI and DOJ conspired to thwart the election of Donald Trump.
Ah,
That this was a conspiracy.
I see.
And that after he was elected, they have since conspired to bring down his administration.
I see.
And evidence for that is mounting.
Oh, it
I
is.
would say that there are many times more, the amount of evidence for that than there is for Russian-Trump collusion
I
in
see.
the election, which is what Mueller is ostensibly after.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There's no evidence for that yet. There's plenty of evidence for what I just stated, that we have a corrupt Department of Justice inherited from the Obama administration,
I see.
and we have a corrupt FBI who worked together to manipulate an election, a presidential election.
I see.
And the evidence for that is mounting, and it's about to break wide open.
Okay, before you go too far, I want to interject here because you're saying things that I find totally
I understand.
unbelievable. Here's the point. Comey brought out this information. They had 250 FBI agents for about a year or two, working on Hillary Clinton's emails.
Yes.
Basically, from what I can gather, just from watching her testify and watching the testimony, and then having them ask all these questions on the, I didn't see anything. They said there were 30,000 missing emails.
50.
50,000 missing
Oh,
emails.
30,000 Hillary emails.
Yeah,
There
Hillary,
were
that's right.
30,000, yeah.
Her lawyers, according to what I heard and what I was kind of testified to, was that those 30,000 emails were emails that her lawyers went through.
She
Because if
claimed
they
that,
were
yes.
present, well, I mean, this is what they said. I mean, all these lawyers must lie then. What you're saying is everybody lies. They basically turned these over and said, look, these you can keep because they're all miscellaneous crap that didn't, right? Among the emails that she actually sent that were traveling around the world, whatever, there were several, there were some that they had a classification that they shouldn't have been out in the public. And those, you could say they can be mistakes, but you want to think otherwise, fine. Comey comes out and he investigates all this stuff, and he comes out with a thing saying, no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute this because there's nothing there, no there, whatever.
He didn't say
Fine.
there's nothing there.
He said no prosecutor.
say that.
Right, okay. So now I have to believe that, Comey, he's just a snitch. He's a rotten bastard because he's a Republican.
You gotta watch
but
your language.
yeah,
You're gonna
he's a
have
rotten.
to get beeped out here.
Comey's a rotten guy, and because he's just in with the enemy. So then she's going along, and they're really helping her because that really helped, and they're going along
What
and about
helped?
the fact that Comey now,
recommended
what you're
no
saying, if
indictment.
we listen to what you're saying, Comey is working for her.
That's
Fine.
my opinion, yes.
Yeah. A week or two before the election itself, Mr. Comey, friend of Hillary Clinton, pops up again.
Yes.
And he says, we have got a bunch more emails from
Anthony Weiner's
the
laptop.
Wiener Schnitzel, and to his wife using Hillary
Uma
Clinton's,
Abedin, yes.
and Hillary Clinton's server or something. Because Abedin, I guess, worked with.
The emails,
But anyway, let me finish.
More- yeah.
So now, at that point, Hillary Clinton is ahead by 9 points in Pennsylvania, 5 or 6 points in Michigan, 6 or 7 points in Wisconsin.
uh-huh.
He comes out with this bombshell, and you must admit it was a bombshell. Her numbers went in the toilet faster than Bonami, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the guy that you're saying was working for Hillary. You
Yes.
know something? She better not pay him because he wasn't worth the help. Because guess what? Donald Trump, who for a month before the election, fully well knowing what the future held for him because of the polls, was running around everywhere saying, the election's rigged. Now, if what you're saying is true, Donald Trump basically was concerned that because Comey had done all these good things for Hillary Clinton, actually, he praised Comey, if you remember,
Who praised Comey?
Trump at the time, for
Yes.
being so honorable.
Yeah, he did.
And when he dropped the Uber Daberdeen bomb on her, okay? So now what you saying? Trump's running around saying the election's rigged. Wait a minute, Donald, you lost the election by 3.5 million votes, but you won because of what? Oh, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Now that's what she was ahead, all those votes, the points in the polls.
Do you remember when Trump claimed that the President Obama wiretapped Trump Tower?
Yes, that's true.
And remember how the press and you and everyone jumped all over it?
I know, I didn't jump. What I said was it was probably from a FISA warrant.
You laughed. No, you didn't say that.
We did.
We didn't know anything
It
about
was because
FISA
of
warrants
FISA.
at the
Yes,
time.
we did. Because
Now we have said it since. I have said it since. Yes.
I thought we were saying it all along.
No.
That the reason they were even checking anybody, it was they were Russians. They
I
were
didn't
following.
say that then. I didn't understand what was happening at that point. When Trump said that, I didn't understand it. But I do now. And I
wasn't
think
being-
that that treat will come to be absolutely true, because that is what's about to come out in this FBI, in this House Intelligence Committee memo.
Oh,
I don't know if
House
you've heard about this,
Intelligence
because
Committee.
mainstream media
They won't
has
release it.
ignored the story.
They won't release
It
it.
has ignored the story. Okay, so there have been 63, as of yesterday, Republican House members who were allowed to go in and read the 4-page memo.
Yeah.
It was written by Trey Gowdy and Devin Nunes.
Trey Gowdy.
And it was based on FBI files that were finally
They
turned
gave them
over
the
after
information.
months to the Intelligence Committee. They went through them, thousands of pages of information, and gleaned and put it down to a 4-page memo, which outlines CIA corruption.
Ah,
All right, did I say CIA? I'm sorry. I meant FBI corruption. Okay. Now the 63 congressmen have read it. It's confidential. so they can't talk about what's in it.
Why not?
Because it's confidential.
Is it always
It's
going to be
classified. It's classified information, okay? And they're honoring that. But they say what we saw in there shocked us. Now, these are guys who have been, guys and women, who have been investigating this for about a year now. And they have seen a lot of stuff. And they are shocked. They say that it's way worse than we ever thought.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
we
think
want
should
to,
publish
and
it.
it takes a vote of the House Intelligence Committee to declassify so that it can be released to the public.
Sure.
And then it goes to the president, who has 5 days to approve that it be declassified. That's expected. I even heard Mara Eliason last night, NPR person, say she expects that it will be declassified and it will come out. And when it does, it is an absolute bombshell.
Okay, you got bombshells, and then
And it's going to prove what I just alleged.
And this, I know Trey Gowdy is. He's
Going to
he's a
criticize his
puppet.
haircut.
And Nunes, High Nunes. I mean, this is the guy that ran to the White House with supposed secret information at midnight, snuck in the White House, and everything blew up in his face.
No, it didn't. He's
shouldn't
gonna be
on-
exonerated
yeah,
for
he'd
that.
be exonerated. But the point is, even the Democratic leader in the Senate, who I guess
5 minutes.
has
4
seen
minutes.
this information, has said it's a bunch of baloney. Now look, hey,
Yes. Okay.
maybe there's something there.
Oh,
Maybe
there's
there
something
isn't.
there, all right.
Oh, there's something. You know, Tom, people that are true believers, it's just the way it is. I mean, you believe that no matter what they haven't seen it.
Between that
But you haven't
and
seen
the
it, you believe it.
50,000 texts that are missing between Strzok and
I
Page,
see.
2 FBI
Yeah,
agents
yeah.
who were working on the Hillary Clinton case and then worked on the alleged Russian Trump collusion with Trump case. And he's the one who was fired by Mueller. And he
Before.
yes, and his
Before.
emails, no, not before.
Yes, he
he
was
He
fired.
was working on the campaign. He was fired last summer, but he was working on it before the election and after the election.
I see.
Okay?
I see.
And Mueller should have known that this guy was crooked,
I see.
and he hired him.
Why was he
hired
crooked?
him
He was
on that.
having an affair with another FBI agent
He
who was
was
a woman.
crooked because he was exonerating Hillary. And this, Loretta Lynch and
Oh, my God.
James Comey conspired to get Hillary off the hook, and Obama was involved. Guess what? Obama's going to come out in this as
Oh,
well.
my God.
Because,
And-
I don't have much time, but Obama was named that Hillary on an unsecured server was sending emails to Obama while he was in a foreign country, and they were hacked by the Russians. Okay, and the FBI changed that in their report. They said they took Obama's name off and they inserted a high government official.
Yeah.
So they covered up for Obama. They covered up for Hillary. They covered up for Loretta
Well, you
Lynch.
believe all
This
this
is all
stuff?
going to blow up, Gino.
Oh, sure it is.
And
I
you're
know.
going to be
Like
you're-
we're gonna
I'm-
impeach.
I'm going to have to. I'll
Yeah, we're
refrain from saying I told you so, except for one time. One time I'll say. it.
Let me tell you something. You believe this stuff.
Yes, I do.
You haven't read it. You haven't seen it. You haven't touched it. You're listening to these rads like Trey. Oh, by the way, his name is Harold Gowdy. The Trey is just like a southern thing they use
He's a
when
very
they're running
sharp guy,
around
Gino, and you're going to find out how sharp he is.
herding cattle or something. And the other guy, Nunes, I call him High Nunes because he
Yeah, you
only
do.
appears at midnight at the guy. Yeah, it's so much baloney.
We have 1 minute left.
You guys
In 2 weeks, you may be forced to change your tune, Gino.
Oh, I know. All these
When
things.
we meet in this show next, which will
Yeah.
be February.
Why don't you find out what the deficit really was in 2001? I would appreciate that.
Folks,
I think you're
it's
out
been
by about
grand.
$6
We
trillion.
have very little time left, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. And these events that I've described will have played out. Some of them will have played out by that time, and we'll have even more information. I
don't-
expect I'll be backed up. I expect that your case will be undercut.
I think that when you read H.L. Mencken, remember this: democracy is the worship of jackals by the jackasses.
I rather like democracy, regardless of what
You
Mencken
probably like
says.
Mencken if you were
See you in a
still
couple
alive.
of weeks.
Thanks for coming in.
Hi, I'm Todd Gallagher. and I'm inviting you to join Valley Vision's Dine to Donate at the Black Cap Grill on Tuesday, January 30th. It's from 4:30 to 9 p.m. Come and support, and 10% of everything raised will go to Valley Vision and all their great programs.